Hey, this is Dan of Vagabond Buddha. This is the video of us taking my Querétaro, Mexico Old Town walking tour. There is an interactive Google map for this walking tour. Just click the link in the notes below YouTube video. At this Vagabond Buddha link, you will find the interactive map for this tour, plus Querétaro best stage tours, best restaurants, best hotels, best flights, buses, and trains, and a link to our best travel or retired cheap paradise locations in the world. Now here's the video. This is Dan of Vagabond Buddha. I'm in Querétaro, Mexico. It's a colonial era city, and this is our Old Town walking tour. Behind me you're looking at the church and ex-convent of Santa Rosa. The church was completed in 1752. The convent was closed in 1861 because of the Reform laws. The Reform laws separated the Catholic Church from their power of government, i.e. separation of church and state. The convent was thereafter used as a hospital for 100 years. Today the convent's occupied by an art college. Let's go inside and peek at the church, and then maybe we can see if we can find our way into the convent also. And this is on a plaza next to the church. By the way, all of these locations I'm going to show you today are on a Google Maps walking tour. Just click the link on YouTube in the notes below this video to get started on your walking tour. Looks like there's a wedding happening today. There's a beautiful bronze sculpture here. Likely is Jesus, or Jesus as they say here. And it's in the plaza already. I'm told that these buttresses on the side of the church, these big curly things that almost look like music notes, are not supported. They're just part of the facade. They have no functional purpose, in other words. Wow, this church is just spectacular inside. And much of the city was destroyed. There was a lot of unrest here in the early colonial period. So a lot of these buildings are built in the 1700s. And so they have Baroque style, which is very ornate. And this seems to fall into that category. Gorgeous. Signature of a convent, they always have in the back, like a screen with a felt or velvet cover so the nuns can join service, but no one can see them. And that's what we can see happening here. This grate, there would be a black cloth between the worshippers on this side and the nuns there. If you're enjoying this video, could you please like it, share it, leave a comment, or subscribe? Your interaction with this video will rank us higher in search engines, and we'll be able to keep traveling and share more travel guides with you. Thanks a lot. When you face from the plaza, the ex-convent is to the left. Right inside the entry there's a playboard, if you will, with dates and things happening. Make sure you peek at that and see if there's anything happening when you're here. Wow, it's a gorgeous courtyard here in this middle of the convent. And there's some stairs here. I'm going to sneak up. Looks like people were silly enough to paint over this at some point, but now they're trying to recover. Nice shot here of the courtyard of the convent, and behind it, the dome. Another model of the church and convent. And seems to include the fun here. So off we go to the next stop. So behind me you're looking at the church of San Felipe Neri, and there's also a monastery, and next to that is the Palace of Conan, that yellow building over my shoulder. The church was started in 1786 and took 19 years to complete. It was inaugurated by Miguel Hidalgo. Hidalgo was the father of independence of Spain, and he freed the slaves. What was the monastery now houses the Ministry of Urban Development. Let's see, look a little closer, see what we find. This is a gorgeous colonial era street here. It's reminiscent of Mexico City, if you saw our video of that. And there's the church that we just discussed. And I think the convent's on the right. I'll go peek at that in a minute. But this is the Palace of Conan here on the left, the yellow one. If my memory serves me, Conan was a tribal chief that that was in control of this area for the Aztecs. And he sided with Spain. And was able to defeat the local, there were three main tribes here, which I'll talk about in another part of the post, but he was able to mainly to silence them by forming an alliance with the Spanish, and for that he got title and, as you can see, a very wealthy residence. Give you a little closer peek at the facade here. This form of facade I'm not going to be able to pronounce or frankly even remember. It was in vogue for a short period of time. I'll hopefully remember to paste it on the screen here for you, but we've seen this in other parts of Mexico, and it's very ornate, as you can see. You can definitely tell that the per capita income here is the second highest in Mexico, second only to Monterrey. This is a fairly large city. I believe it's 2 million, including all of the surrounding suburbs. And it's also known as the high-tech area of Mexico. Some call it the Silicon Valley of Mexico. And a lot of international companies have a presence here in Querétaro. And the state's also called Querétaro. So it's we're in the city and also the state. This is not technically on the tour, but I just thought I would walk a little close to the fountain and let you see this well-manicured colonial center. It's actually a little reminiscent of Arequipa, Peru, which is probably my favorite city in Peru, which has a similar characteristic of having, I believe, the highest per capita income in the country. Okay, so this is the City Museum. The museum's located in the former Royal Convent of Santa Clara. In the 18th century, nuns from Mexico City moved to Querétaro to occupy this complex. After reform laws in 1867, this building was a prison for Maximilian I. Today it is used as a cultural center. The museum exhibits contemporary drawings, photographs, sculptures, as well as recitals in dance, music, and other arts. And right next door what appears to be a previous mansion is another museum, Museo de la Restauración de la Republic. It's a beautiful mansion, and maybe I'll sneak in there after peeking at the City Museum. So we're inside the convent now. These walls are painted. It makes me wonder if the beautiful artwork is behind the paint. So I'll show you around a little while I tell you about the reform laws. So the Roman Catholic Church was in charge of much of the social order, and the government's job was to execute it. And the church was very expensive for the poor Spanish and the indigenous people. They had all these requirements because the church was integrated with state. And so Benito Juarez and Ocampo came into power, and they separated church and state. Ocampo told a story of a priest a poor man came with his dead son, and he asked the priest if he could bless him for burial. And the priest said, "No, not without the fees." And the man cried and asked, "What do I do with my son?" And the priest said, "Salt him and eat him." And so most of the priests were good people, but it was very difficult for the poor because they were being charged all these fees, and they were being enforced by the government. And so the reform laws were passed that separated church and state, and then there was an uprising where the church, and the conservatives in Mexico tried to take back over the government once the reform laws were passed. And Maximilian was installed as an emperor. That might not be his exact title, but that's the idea. And Benito Juarez and his people had to extricate him from the country. This is fun. And he was kept here in the prison. I hope this isn't real. Great artwork, really nice. Okay, so this is the City Museum. Love this stuff. This is a modern museum, as you can see, and it's very clever what they've done here in this old convent. So swing by the City Museum. Love that City Museum. So now I'm going to sneak next door into this mansion and see what they have. Oh, interesting. I really don't know what this place is, but I'm just going from the evidence in front of me. It looks like maybe when the nuns got thrown out of the convent next door, maybe the artifacts and maybe the nuns also came next door to this wealthy home. I'm just making this up, but this looks like it's church memorabilia. That's why I say that, and it's right next door to the convent that I was just in, the City Museum now. And so maybe a wealthy family donated this as a place to hold the artifacts from the convent, as a pushback from the reform laws by the conservatives. Of course, the conservatives in general have more money, so maybe this mansion was a drop in the bucket for someone. But I note these posters on the wall include some liberals, Benito Juarez for one. So maybe my theory is just shot holes in my own theory. If I get time, I'll do a little reading and maybe put a note here on the video in text so you can see what I concluded. Really nice. Beautiful. Okay, I'm exiting the City Museum, and there's this cool walkway here I don't want to miss. So it's not on the path, but it's in the same direction as the next stop. So I'm going to take advantage of it. As you can see, these are colonial era homes on this path. Wow. This is a romantic city. We've been cooped up inside and doing research about where to go, what to see, and it's kind of the first time I've been out while the sun's shining, and it's spectacular, as you can see. It's a spectacular city. Wow, I believe this is Baroque, and it's extraordinary, as you can see. As I say, this is not officially on the tour, but I thought it was beautiful, so I showed it to you. It's the Templo de Santa Clara, and it's on the walking path. So enjoy, and then we're heading to the next stop on the tour. So this is St. Agustin Church, and the Augustin friars occupied the monastery next door from about 1743. It's the finest Baroque monastery in the Americas, which is saying a lot. On the ground floor of the inner courtyard, there are faces with fierce expressions. The upper floor has more serene expressions representing higher levels of consciousness. And so let's go inside this monastery and check it out. Right over here is the door. And here it is. Wow. They're not exaggerating. I don't know of a more ornate example of Baroque anywhere in the Americas, as they put it. Wow, this is a museum to boot. So they say the faces are more serene on the second floor, as you can see there. And then they're more earthly, if you will, on the first floor. I get their point. It's a contemporary art museum. And indeed, that's how I would describe it. They do have some Baroque period art, give or take 50 years also. And of course you need St. Augustine if you're going to name something after him. It's a really beautiful museum. I don't know if you can see or not, but this is a tile work. The little squares there. That'd be some nice tile to have in your home. El Gato Feliz bronze. The lower level faces represent the sins of man, which to Buddhists would mean mind consciousness. So what do you think of this Baroque monastery in St. Agustin here.
It's very beautiful.
It is. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous place, isn't it? One of the most beautiful buildings I think I've ever seen in my life. It's more like art than a building, although it is functional as a building also. Of course, it's an art museum now, not a monastery. Alright, let's take some pictures. Might be fun for you to see everyday life here too. Shanghai's looking for stickers. Oh, she's not going in. She's not filling it. So right now we're in Jardin Xenia. This Xenia Garden Plaza was named in honor of Governor Benito Xenia. Both this plaza and the next plaza I'm going to show you were part of the atrium for the adjacent San Francisco Church and Monastery. And as you can see, this is just a splendid city, really, combining this colonial charm with the standard of living in this area. It's just really a one-two punch that's made this place extraordinary. So this is Templo de San Francisco, or the Temple of San Francisco. This was completed in the 18th century. The church served as the cathedral until the 20th century. The church's cloister now functions as the museum I'm about to show you. And there's the front entrance to the church. I was here earlier and there was a wedding going on, so I wasn't able to take you inside, but maybe I can get you in there now. This, by the way, is right across the street from the garden I showed you a few moments ago, Jardin Xenia. It's over there. Let's sneak inside the church and see what we can find. Holy cow, this thing is gorgeous. You can see why Benito Juarez and Ocampo and others were able to get some traction with the people of Mexico for the reform laws, because there's so much wealth in these churches and the people were at that time starving. And so you can see why they were able to separate the church from state, so the church couldn't tax them with all of their fees for burial and marriage and exorbitant fees. So there's the front door of the church, and this is the regional museum here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we're going to go in there and see if we can sneak inside. Wow, this is the Queretaro Museo Regional. As I said, it was the church's cloister. And it functions as a museum now. Built in 1698. The monastery was the first in the city. Built by Franciscans to evangelize the native population, of course. The museum includes local area artifacts from the pre-Hispanic, the colonial, and post-independence. Let's see what we find. Queretaro. This is pre-Hispanic. Wow, there's great lighting in here. It's really a lovely church, or museum. It's 45 pesos to bring your camera in here, which is about $2. And as you can see, it's worth it to me for your enjoyment and my own. The Catholic Church used to destroy anything that it perceived to be spiritual symbolism. And so you don't get many pieces that were left, except the ones that the indigenous people were able to hide, or the Spanish were just lazy and didn't completely thrash everything. So you get a few remnants like this. This looks like it was a sun god. This is the colonial period. They're, of course, kept in darker areas to maintain the color. Of course, to rev up the troops to start killing people, you need to print and teach. Now we have the internet, of course. You have to explain the injustice to get people to kill each other, otherwise known as propaganda from the other side's point of view. Independence. And that, my friends, is Benito Juarez. I would know that face. He is the father of the Reform Wars and laws that separated church and state. And as you would suspect, there's a section of the museum with paintings and whatnot from when the Franciscans were here. So there is the cloister next to the San Franciscan Temple. And now I'm in Constitution Plaza. Has a number of restaurants that are nicely shaded. And as usual, there's a mariachi band. And there it is, Hank's. 2 for 1, New Orleans Cafe and Oyster Bar. This is not a dive bar, so 2 for 1 might be more than you're used to paying. So this monument is named after Josefa Ortiz de Dominguez, the wife of mayor of the city. She was a hero of the Mexican War of Independence. She was arrested for her participation in the conspiracy of 1810. That was a conspiracy that started the War of Independence. And so they're honoring her here. Lovely statue and a lovely park. So this is Plaza Independence, or Plaza de Armas. This is the oldest part of the city, the colonial era city. It's surrounded by sidewalk cafes and colonial era mansions. The fountain in the center honors Juan Antonio de Urita e Arana, who built the large aqueduct to bring water to the city. The plaza is also surrounded by Galeria Libertad and Casa de Aquila, and the 18th century mansion with large iron balconies, which I'll try to show you. The best known structure on Plaza de Armas is the following place I'm going to show you, which is the Palace of Querétaro. And it's well, I'll tell you about it when I get there. Quite a few of these have wrought iron fences, so I'm not sure which one it is, but why not see them all? It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous place. But wow, that was their house. Let's go inside. There it is. Thing is huge. And of course there's the required sign for the city here. You want to get a selfie. So over my shoulder there is Benito Juarez. He was the president, the only indigenous president of Mexico actually. I don't remember the exact year, it was around 1850. He passed the reform laws which separated church and state. And then over on this side they have a picture of, Hidalgo. Hidalgo's Mexico's father of independence. He was sort of a combination of both Washington and Lincoln, in that he both led the charge for independence from Spain, but he freed the slaves all at the same time. And so he's like a Washington and Lincoln. And we're in the home of the mayor and his wife, who were ruling at the time of independence. And I showed you the monument to the wife yesterday. So here she is. Donna Josefa Ortiz de Dominguez. At the time, she would call what would be called a feminist today. She was involved in politics and gave her life for this country. We're on the walk to the Temple of Convento de la Santa Cruz. And I'm really loving this neighborhood too. This is more of the Indian neighborhood according to what I read online. Conan, the guy that was the governor, split the areas and he put the Indians in this area and the Spanish down around Centro. So this is Templo e Convento de la Santa Cruz. This church and monastery is located on San Grimal Hill. This is where the Spanish claimed St. James appeared at the founding of the city. There's a cross commemorating the event. During the War of Independence, Querétaro's mayor, Miguel Dominguez, was imprisoned here. The convent is over my shoulder over there. We'll sneak in there and maybe that's another art studio. I don't think it's an active convent, but... So where's the cross? I don't see the cross, but maybe it's behind the church. We'll go look. You walk up the hill behind the Santa Cruz Temple. There's this moratorium, I guess, of heroes. And this viewpoint over here, where you have a nice view of the aqueduct, which I'm about to show you. This is Mirador de los Arcos. It's the 8th stop on our Old Town walking tour. And from this viewpoint, you can see the full length of the Queretaro aqueduct. The aqueduct is 1.3 kilometers long. Each arch is 20 meters wide. It was started back in 1726 and took 12 years to build. It was built by San Antonio de Arritia. It was necessary to distribute water to parts that were lacking in various areas. And now we're walking home. Hey, thanks for watching our video. If you'd like to learn how to live internationally or make money online, please grab a free copy of my ebook. Just click the link on YouTube and the notes below this YouTube video. Contact us if you would like to collaborate with us on social media. This is Dan of Vagabond Buddha. The world is your home. What time will you be home for dinner? Thanks again for listening.